Welcome, everybody. I'm calling to order the January Capital Program Committee meeting. Members of the public here to provide comments. Who will speak to that? Who's moderating? Oh,
Yes. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman.
sir.
We have 7 members of the public registered to speak today, 5 in person and 2 virtual. As a reminder, that we ask all speakers to adhere to the MTA's rules of conduct and decorum. We would also like to remind the public speakers that in the interest of time and fairness to all, we limit everyone to 2 minutes. Please be aware that there will be a warning beep reminding you that you have 30 seconds to conclude your remarks. Our first speaker is Omar Vera, followed by Jason Anthony.
Good morning, MTA CPOC committee. Welcome to the January edition of your meeting. First of all, Happy New Year. Second, I noticed congestion pricing is finally here and it's working quite well, as you can see. Like I said earlier in the transit, I'm hoping that maybe one day we can have congestion pricing extended to downtown Brooklyn, as that area is pretty busy. And also, like I said, keep up the good work. We also need the Interborough Express and other projects, including future CBTC implemented on other routes in waiting. We need a fully modernized subway system, and for eventually, we also need cellular and signals on all tunnels by the 2030s. That's what we're looking for. That said, have a great day and see you around.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jason Anthony, followed by Kara Girl.
Good morning, Jano, Jamie. Thank you, Mark, for the introduction. Jason Anthony, the transit guru, has reborn for 2025. I'll say, Jamie, Jano, you guys have done a wonderful job in 2024. Opening more elevators that people have expected. I'm very proud to be part of the MTA family. And having congestion pricing up and running is very surprising. And finding out that cities like Chicago and Boston are considering having congestion pricing in their cities is something that New York is making a trend. So we are making a trend. And 2025 started with the right foot, with 2 elevators being opened. One along my favorite subway line, the 6, and the other that was opened this past Friday at Woodhaven Boulevard in Queens. So 2025, despite the uncertainties that is going on in Washington, we should remain resilient, positive, and with the help with the MTA board and all the advocates, we are New York tough, and we are that Empire State. So that's all I have to say for this month. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Kara Girl, followed by Christopher Greif.
Good morning. I'm Kara Girl, Planning and Advocacy Manager at the Permanent Citizens Advisory Committee to the MTA, PCAC. Last month, we were cautiously celebrating the upcoming start of congestion pricing and the governor's pledge to fully fund the capital plan. And after 3 weeks, the data shows that it's working. And importantly, money is finally coming in to fund the remaining projects in the 2020 to 24 capital plan. We hope to hear more soon about when it will start to be bonded. But we also received some alarming news in the final days of 2024. The legislature threw us a curveball when they rejected the 2025 to 29 capital plan. This disappointing move put riders at the center of political negotiations in Albany. But it's up to our elected leaders to ensure that transit is fully funded and the capital plan is invested in. We're thankful that Governor Hochul has proposed that the state and city each fund $3 billion of the plan, but it's important to note that this is $1 billion less than anticipated from each. Federal funding is also key, though we're in a precarious place with the new administration. Above all, we're counting on legislators and the governor to put their heads together and propose concrete, dedicated, and recurring capital funding streams that riders and the MTA can count on. The good news is that PCAC has done a lot of the work for them. Our upcoming report details nearly 24 funding options for Albany to pick from, although some sources are clearly more equitable than others. We cannot afford to see cuts to the capital plan, which is almost entirely made of critical state of good repair, resiliency, and accessibility projects, and the transformative IBX. They can't wait, and if the MTA is required to amend the plan, we urge you to prioritize the projects that keep the system's daily operations running. As detailed in the Partnership for New York City's new report on the economic impacts of the MTA's 25 to 29 capital plan, it will generate an estimated $106 billion of statewide economic output over 5 years, supporting an average of 72,700 jobs. We need a fully funded capital plan to build a better region. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Christopher Greif, followed by Bruce Hain.
Good morning, everyone. Christopher D. Greif. The future of accessibility rides with us. As my other colleagues have mentioned, as we have opened up 2 new elevators in Queens and the Bronx, if we have one in Brooklyn, we'll have a BBQ moment. But happiness means we're getting the things done. As Jamie has mentioned, this is not the old MTA, this is the new MTA. And I'm sorry if I'm using it a lot, but I love it because it's getting a message out to all elected officials that we need to move forward, stop thinking about the past. The congestion pricing is not just one area. It's helping also seniors and people with disabilities to get on Access-a-Ride, who uses Access-a-Ride, to get to their destinations on time. We can look outside Lower Manhattan right now. It is amazing that my own mother, when we came down, it's amazing from during the afternoon, say right at 3 o'clock when the evening rush is, it's nice to go through the tunnel, not getting stuck and doing the tango dance into the tunnel and getting out. It is not easy. Access-a-Ride has a schedule. We have a schedule. We have to make sure we allow ourselves additional hour. We need to remember that the capital projects are important. They're not for these. People got to realize seniors and disabled need elevators, ramps, updating LD lighting, technology, signages, and yes, the assistant button that's right now on the Long Island Railroad and being tested on Metro North. We need to continue that and making sure that Long Island Cares and Metro North Cares are there for a reason to make sure. And our guards and police officers are there on the train platform or on the train, so we don't have to see no fare evading, no one getting hurt, and especially getting on or off the trains. I thank MTA Police and NYPD, but we still need to continue the capital project, and I will advocate to the highest levels and remind them that the future of accessibility rides with us, and this is not the old MTA. This is the 21st century's new MTA. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Bruce Hain, followed by Maddie Bucky Highlands virtually.
Good morning, Jano and committee. I suppose you wonder, with all this congratulations and self-congratulations, why a person who's been given the double tertiary digit effectively. I mean, you're always cordial and polite. You've always been very nice. And the trouble is that I just can't agree with this. You know, you have to concentrate on the things, you have to have priorities, and your priorities should be on the properties that you already have. For instance, well, I mean, why not replace or build a new line with a fixed span next to that 130-year-old bridge there, instead of interrupting service? I don't think that would be too much to do. I think in Russia, they do it that way. You know what they're doing in Moscow and in Russia. They do it that way. They're having a big build-out, and it's not like this stuff. You know, you have to concentrate on your priorities, which means not BX or whatever it's called, and not the reduced to 2 tracks that was supposed to be 4 tracks trunk line to the Bronx, and reducing the main line out east of Jamaica so that it deprecates the Belmont station so that it can't be used because you can't run trains from that through Queens Interlocking. It won't work. And that bridge, that flyover, I told you not to do that. And you go right on. With the platform, it's got to come out sometime. You're going to have, oh, I'm sorry. You're going to have 4 tracks in from Lower Manhattan and tracks in from another 2 from the main line. It can't work that way. And you're deprecating it. You're making it worse. And it's got to change.
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker virtually is Maddie Bucky's Highland, followed by Alita Dupree, also virtual.
Thank you, Mark. And good morning, everybody. My name is Matty W. Bucky's Highland, and I'm an advocate for people with disabilities. For the Capital Project, remember, the future rides with us. Not me, but us. This isn't the leadership under then MTA Chairman Bob Kiley, but rather under Jan O'Lieber, who's for that matter. Accessibility, in my view, is a right. But I am disappointed in the legislature for not rejecting the capital plan, though, and to Majority Leader Stuart Cousins and to Speaker Hasty by not accepting the plan. We'll have to see what comes when it comes to the finance time when Senator Liz Krueger and Assemblyman Pretlow introduced when they're having these joint hearings. But I also like to thank Senator Jeremy Cooney and Assemblyman Bill Magnarelli, the chairs of the Transportation Committee in the legislature, for their part as well. And last Thursday I attended an accessibility which is hosted by the Trans Riders Council's own Chris Greif and Jason Anthony, and I learned a lot about stuff. I can see them becoming future MTA board members. So with that note, this is the 21st century, and once again, everybody, the future rides with us, not me. So God bless you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And our last speaker is Alita Dupree, virtually.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Jana Lieber and members. Alita Dupree, for the record, she and her with Team Folds. I got my clock here. Thank you. In the report, a lot of interesting things. The work at Rockaway is absolutely essential. I used to take that line out to Rockaway's playland, and with all of the freeze and thaw and the humidity and salt in the air, it's time. And I know it's not going to be easy, but we'll have a much better Rockaway experience once it's done, and I hope to use it. And other mentions of work on a new bus depot and a bus radio system. Radios are important. Have to be able to talk to each other. So I'm looking for that. These are the things that we don't often hear about, but thank you for bringing that up. And I have some Grand Central train shed for you. Have to keep working on that. I talk about it a lot because I use Grand Central Terminal a lot when I'm in New York, and it's very important. I take it very seriously and enjoy it. Capital involves lots of things. And thank you for the congestion pricing. I've been meaning to come to New York, and it's very cold, and I might come anyway. And I look forward to experiencing the congestion pricing, not just by using the buses and the subway, but I plan to get a ride share, and I'll pay the $1.50 fee. And I can share about that in meetings around the country, paying into the system. But how do we go forward with all this? This is essential work, both the construction of new projects and the rehabilitation of existing projects. Omni and CBTC and all kinds of other things. It's all the sum of the parts that come together in the whole. These things help uphold the idea that the MTA is legendary and stately, and I thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, that concludes our public comments.
Thank you. Thank you to all the public commenters, especially those who said nice things about us. But I do want to acknowledge that, we do these public comment sessions a lot, and I just want to acknowledge there are a lot of people who spoke today who are, I wouldn't call frequent flyers, but regular participants, and we appreciate the commitment that you all have shown to making the MTA better over time, and you are part of the family, as somebody did say, so thank you. Mr. Torres Springer, are there, well, I'm saying copies of minutes first. Copies of the December committee minutes have been distributed and are available on the website. Does anybody have any changes or corrections? Mr. Albert being absent, I see none. The minutes are approved in his absence. Mr. Torres Springer, changes to the work plan?
No, Chair, no changes.
Okay. Please go ahead with your report.
Thank you very much, Chair. Members of the committee, glad to be here reporting on a lot of essential work, particularly state of good repair work this month. Agency President's prerogative, I'm going to steal a little thunder from our business unit report to just start by showing this astounding picture of what's known as the Hamels Y, which brings service onto the Rockaway Peninsula on the A train. I know the chair was out there this morning, particularly taking a look at how we're maintaining service during this, what was a required 17-month outage for service onto the peninsula. But we are taking very seriously that schedule and our obligation to return service at the 17 week. I'm sorry, did I say 17? I'm sorry, 17 weeks. So, and despite the slip up, we're taking it very seriously, getting this back in 17 weeks. And you can see, here is the viaduct that service runs over that by the end of the weekend is basically almost entirely demolished. Peter will show you some more pictures, but we've gone in there and despite the very cold weather are getting the work done on schedule, ahead of schedule, rebuilding the Hamels Y and the South Channel Bridge, the swing bridge that is often the cause of a delay in service to deal with these long-term resiliency issues that we have in providing that service in the long term. And we're very pleased with how construction's been proceeding. More on that to come. Some events of the last month. Before the end of last year, but after our last board meeting, we were able to successfully open this major ADA accessibility project at 68th Street, Hunter College. This, as we noted on that day, is very significant. It is the 100th out of 100 stations that the MTA originally committed to making ADA accessible after the passage of the Americans with Disabilities Act. And it was number 100 because, frankly, prior generations of the MTA couldn't figure out how to make such a complex station ADA accessible. We did it, and I have more news for you today because we really want to be held accountable for budget and schedule at C&D. We saved more than $30 million on this project. We saved $10 million from design changes that were made possible by the design build contract. Basically, we avoided relocation of a water main, working with our partners at the city to figure out how to continue to provide water service on the Upper East Side without fully relocating the main. And then we saved $21 million through effective project management that gave back allocated funds during construction that can be used for other improvements in the capital program. So $30 million savings on 68th Street, Hunter College. We also, at the beginning of this year, opened Westchester Square, the first ADA accessible station of the year, 3 new elevators, a dozen stairways rebuilt or refurbished. That project brought in on budget, also an enormously complex project. And then last week we opened Woodhaven Boulevard on the J and the Z. We saved on that project $40 million before a shovel was in the ground because we determined that based on how wide the street was and the difficulty in landing elevators at the mezzanine, we innovated and brought the elevators direct to platform. That saved us $40 million by not having to basically fully rebuild the mezzanine and add additional elevators to get there. And we are using that innovation on at least 2 other stations within the 2020 to 2024 program. And we've tasked our stations business unit with looking for as many direct-to-platform elevator opportunities as possible in the more than 60 ADA accessible stations that we'll have in the 25 to 29 plan. It's an easier path of travel for our riders. and it saves us money and it saves us time getting stations done. So $40 million before a shovel was in the ground, and then $8 million additionally saved during construction. A little more news as we wrap this up, both Westchester Square and Woodhaven are the last two stations in our ADA Package 2, our design build second package of the program. With the completion of Woodhaven, we are now substantially complete or nearing substantial completion on ADA Package 2. Looking overall, we saved at least $33 million during construction on that package through quality project management and coordination. Again, tens of millions of dollars being returned to the capital program to provide additional benefits to our riders based on the way that we're approaching construction. C&D continues to manage the adoption of new fare technology, like a mega project, as we've been tasked with doing. We've made major strides establishing system monitoring and redundancy for the Omni program as we continue to hold our contractor, Cubic, to account for getting this work done. And we're delivering on critical milestones on time to finish the project as planned. Just on Friday, we mailed out the 1 millionth reduced fare Omni card, with the remaining 500,000 expected to be mailed out within the next 2 weeks. This got done very rapidly over the next couple of months. And just to, to be clear with the committee, what we're trying to do, we're approaching the point where every fare class and group will be able to use Omni seamlessly, with more big milestones coming up in the next few months on fares, on paratransit. We recently finished an agreement with Nice Bus in Nassau County that should have them up and running on Omni this year. Of course, we got students done last fall, and we've got more card vending machines rolled out across the system, and that's getting done. We got to get them working 100% reliably, which is something we're very much collaborating with New York City Transit on and holding Cubic accountable for. But as all that work gets done, all of our ridership groups are going to be able to use Omni in a seamless way. And it's a much more user-friendly form of fare payment. It's going to be available for everyone, save time and money for everyone as we get this completed this year. I also want to mention that this month, C&D rolled out a This Week in Construction newsletter as a bookend for the weekender that we normally send out at the beginning of the weekend. We know that weekend service disruptions can really impact our customers, and they want to know that they're getting what they're getting from it in terms of improved service and maintaining reliability and frequency. So we'll send out regular updates showing what progress is being made, often behind the scenes during these disruptions, behind those blue walls. I encourage everyone to sign up at the URL that's listed at the bottom of the slide here to receive that information from us. Turning to future capital projects and the future capital program, we remain positioned and getting stood up as much as possible to be able to execute projects within the 2025 to 2029 plan. As was mentioned by one of the speakers, last week the Partnership for New York City rolled out an independent assessment of the economic value of our proposed 25 to 29 capital program and demonstrated job creation all across New York State from work within it. So, this number, as just, former economic impact analyst here can just geek out a little bit to say that, a 150% multiplier on a $68 billion program demonstrates a significant return. We have the need to maintain our $1.5 trillion asset through this investment, but we also are showing a direct, indirect, and induced return on the money that gets spent all across New York State. And those 72,000 jobs, those are good jobs. They're high-paying jobs. Many of them are in regions all across the state, everything from providing equipment, obviously labor force that's employed on our projects all across the region, as well as rolling stock, which increasingly is getting produced in other parts of New York State. So very exciting results from that independent assessment. And of course, I do want to note that as congestion relief gets off the ground, those projects that are funded from congestion relief are moving forward. We released the request for proposals for Contract 2, the tunnel contract for 2nd Avenue Subway. We've gotten the Fulton and we added the Liberty line component of that, signal modernization, that's in procurement, ADA packages for 4 stations, including Bryant Park, and 19 more stations, 19 more ADA accessible stations that are funded by congestion pricing. And of course, we exercise, it's not on here, exercise the option for 270 battery electric buses that are funded by congestion pricing. So that's all moving forward. And as we transition to the report from our infrastructure business unit, I just want to emphasize a couple of important points. First, this is absolutely critical state of good repair work that we're going to be talking about today, and everyone knows it's the focus of our next capital plan. 90% of the capital plan is dedicated to state of good repair. This business unit, the infrastructure business unit, doing New York City transit work alone represents about a third of C&D's work, and it is the stuff we keep talking about to keep the system running. Tunnel structures, elevated structures, power, back-of-house facilities, and resiliency. You can see a great example of that here, where infrastructure recently was called upon to supply a transformer from another project to the State Street substation, which failed late last year. Rather than continuing to absorb service impacts across our system from the failure of that substation, we were able to repurpose a transformer from another project that was underway in order to re-energize that substation and continue to provide power. Peter's going to remind us that, and now we're scrambling to go and backfill and find the transformer for that substation that's under construction, but we'll sort that out. And the important thing is that we're getting the work done. The work is very important, but we don't want to rest on our laurels. So just a little bit different today. After Peter Koner, who's the head of our business unit, presents on status, Mark Roche, who is responsible for our delivery program and innovation across the whole delivery program, is going to tell us about 4 significant ways that we're saving precious dollars by innovating in how we deliver within the infrastructure business unit. And then finally, we'll hear from Alyssa Cobb-Conan, who's the new head of our planning department at C&D, about what's in our next capital plan and how the planning for that work is progressing. So with that, I'll hand it over to Peter.
Members of the board, this was a very hard act to follow. It is a new year, so happy new year. So my name is Peter Kona, and I lead the infrastructure unit that is the largest in a C&D portfolio of delivery units. We do about $10 billion over the capital program and about 269 active projects at any given time. We do the non-sexy stuff. We do all the stuff that is behind the scenes. And we are organized into 4 areas. We call them the program areas: wayside power, facilities, line structures, and sandy resiliency. We had a robust year last year. We produced $1.72 billion in completions and $1.16 billion in commitments. So 25 should be a good year for us as well. Okay. So in with a new, it's a new year. So Jamaica Bus Depot, it's a 135,000 square feet LEED certified facility that will also have a 34,000 square feet administrative building. The new facility will have a rooftop as well as outdoor parking to house a fleet of 275 plus buses. Moreover, the new facility will provide charging station for 130 plus buses. The project is currently 10 months behind schedule. This due to issues with a temporary parking lot at York College. The project has not accepted this delay, and we're working very diligently to reduce this delay to make sure that we deliver the project, if not on time, with a minimum delay. The forecast DAC for the project is $646 million. It's running through the budget.
Peter, let me just jump in, because I know we haven't accepted the delay. The delay is largely because of permitting issues, which became complex. But what we see here in the image, this is the new Jamaica Bus Depot facility. Yep. Actually, the steel has started going up last week. Right. That building is not behind, right? That building will be delivered on time so that we can transition to the new facility on time. At the moment, it's the demolition of the old facility and reconstruction of that component of the site. It's right next door that's running behind, but you're trying to make that up. I just want to make sure that's clear, because in terms of us delivering, a project that we need for service, that's in good shape.
Our next project that I want to talk about is something that Jamie already alluded to. We have a bunch of photographs that probably the ones I will show you are not true any longer because the project is really moving very fast. It is a replacement of a Hammerswey viaduct, a 1,400 feet old structure that has been deteriorated through salt and being the corrosive environment near the water. As also mentioned, we are going to be completely refurbishing the South Channel Bridge that has been the bane of the existence for the Rockaway folks because the bridge many times did not either open or close properly. The 17-week shutdown is afoot, and it's going very well at this stage of the game. I feel that we will be able to deliver this project by, as stated, by May 19 or perhaps sooner. So the project is on time and on schedule, on schedule and budget. There's a bunch of pictures that I will show you. Some of these probably are not true any longer. This is the old right-of-way where we took out the ballast. Here is the demolition that you can see. We have about 150 people working on site, day and night, 7 days a week.
I can confirm that the structure is gone. I saw it this morning. It ain't there no more. So,
Thank you.
okay.
What you see here is the interior, some pictures from the South Channel Bridge drive area. It's a machine room. It is truly in a bad situation, so we are replacing all the drives, we're replacing all the motors, gearboxes, replacing some gears, and above all, new control system that will assure that we can service the trains properly without hitches to the bridge. A bus radio, this is some project that has been talked about for quite some time now. We had a contractor that has not really done well for us. It was a design-build project. However, I'm happy to report that the team delivered this year, end of this year, a project that provides fully functional voice and digital communication, enabling nearly 6,000 buses to communicate seamlessly with the bus command center. We equipped the BCC, the bus command center, with new hardware software to support computer-aided dispatch for the entire bus fleet and non-revenue bus support vehicles. Installed 35 base stations across the 5 boroughs, including parts of New Jersey and Yonkers, to ensure comprehensive coverage for the MTA bus service throughout. Right now, you will see a little bit of a flyover over the 207th Street, a legacy project that has been with us since 2018. This is second largest center in the New York City Transit repertoire, right after Coney Island. What you see here is a 2,100 linear feet of resiliency wall that was built. What you see, that little detent provides for a high-pressure gas valve for the Con Ed. We have replaced 35,000 feet of track and 83 switches, upgraded the signal and power. Here you see a brand-new building for the signal and RTO tower, one of 2 that we built, and upgraded all the necessary infrastructure within it. Additionally, we installed a water line to service the fire suppression system for the building that you just see, which is a Building A. More of the same. What I would like to say is that this project was really done in cooperation with New York City Transit with a minimal disruption to the system. And that concludes my delivery for you.
I'm going to take it from here. All nice photographs and videos from Peter, but there's things going on behind the scenes which I think are worth everybody knowing about, that I think prove faster, better, cheaper. I'd like to say faster, better, cheaper, cleverer, but I leave it with the first 3, okay? Look, Peter showed a nice video. In the background here, you can see the 207th Street, and you can see the restaurants in the street that are on 10th Avenue there. One of the things that happened during Sandy, not only did the water come from the river, it also came up from the sewer system. It blew all the tops on the sewer manholes and came right up into the system. So to make this resilient going forward, we've shifted the sewer outside of the facility. And what you see in green there is the new line of that sewer. Every time we touch a street, it costs us millions of dollars. Every time we touch a street, we hit every single utility in the land. This time, the team did something very different. We put the sewer 30 to 35 feet down underground. First time we've done that in MTA. And we tunneled the sewer instead of digging out the sewer. That's a first for us. It's providing us with a toolkit which we have never used before. I think we've already got 10 projects that actually use this method now to actually advance and save money on other projects. What it's done is it avoided us getting involved in the street. It avoided us during COVID having to take away all of those street restaurants. It got us to a specialty contractor who knew what they were doing. We contracted with them directly to get the best price. This project, though it took a year longer to get it going, finished on schedule and $8 million ahead of schedule, $8 million ahead of budget. A unique way for us to involve a specialist, and you'll hear lots of specialists coming in as I talk today. The ability for us to avoid utilities is a strategy across all of our projects, and this is just the latest demonstration of how we're getting out of the way of utilities. It's a very simple one, but it's extremely important. How do we get to our projects is becoming a major cost factor in bidders' work. I sit down and look at the costs of bids pretty much every day. I talk to contractors after they've prepared their bids and say, why did you bid that price for these projects? And every time I go through it and I say, well, I had to bring this piece of material in, I had to walk this mile to get to the track, I had to bring all that sort of hard stuff that I've got to carry, the guys are tired, I'm not getting the productivity. It's costing us 10, 20% in our projects just to get to the work sites on our project. Well, Peter's team did something completely different on the concourse line, or the Grand Concourse. They dug a hole, real clever stuff here. But they dug a hole right in the right place to stop all that long cost and all that time it takes for us to get to projects. And that is a bigger picture here that we are seeing in lots of projects. We only have a certain amount of equipment to bring materials to site. We only have a certain amount of flat trucks, flat cars. Every time we bring material to site in tunnels, on bridges, it affects service. So more and more and more, we are taking away the expectation that contractors can use our facilities to get in and get to work. In this particular case, we got 40% more work done at the same price and got out of there 9 months ahead of schedule because we dug one hole. How do we get more access and more access as we go along is a key factor across all of our projects. We've talked about this one a couple of times before. We are saving hundreds of millions of dollars in how we're doing painting. When we spoke to you last time, we said we were going to try a new way of painting. We're going to stop the idea that we're only minutely cleaning the steel and then painting over it. I'm not sure anybody here would do that in their own home. What we do is we sandblast the paint now. We've taken the lessons from B&T and all those guys on those big bridges who make their painting systems last for 30 or 40 years. And we've applied that technology to where we're going on our projects. So we only repair this particular structure once in 30 years. That compares to what we're doing in the past few years before C&D of repairing the structure every 10 years. Not having to go back to repair these structures in 2030s, in 2040s, only in the 2060s is saving hundreds of millions of dollars on how we're approaching the maintaining of structures. It's a completely unique thing, and given that $5 billion is allocated in the upcoming proposed capital program for transit structures, that's $5 billion we don't have to spend in 2030 and 2040. Let's see if we need to do it in 2060. Major improvements in how we're getting preservation of our assets. This is a subtle one, but how do we get our specialists to do better? How do we get them to be more productive? We have specialists all over all of our business units. And in this particular case, it's just a series of contractors who are very good at repairing steel. We met with them a year or two ago and we said, look, how can we get more out of you? And the outcome of that was, well, look, give us more to do. And we took the view that what that meant was, okay, we're going to get you to repair the column bases, we're going to get you to repair the columns, we're going to repair the beams, you're going to go up on the top, you're going to repair it. And lo and behold, we got prices back from them which were 20% higher than what we expected. Our specialists turned out were afraid of working on the top of structure because it has to do with closing down tracks and managing outages on trains. Okay, we don't want to spend that extra 20%. We don't want to have the hierarchy of contractual problems that implies. So what we've done is we've changed the bundling strategy. Instead of going up and everything geographically, we've gone horizontally. So now we have contractors out there who, instead of doing 50 or 100 column bases, they're going to do 1,000 column bases for us in one contract. So we've switched from a geographic bundling to a linear bundling for our specialist work. And you'll see in the months, as we sort of give you some more of the details in the future months, that a lot of these specialist contractors and specialist way of working need special ways of handling. And we need to understand our market better. We've been looking to work with our vendors to see how do we get them more productive. And that's, again, a theme that I think you'll see in lots of projects going forward. Thank you.
I just want to echo one thing. You know, I had the good fortune or the misfortune of taking over East Side Access 10 plus years after it started and trying to bring that project in, which we did successfully. The hugest issue of productivity and cost was the fact that the project had been designed to bring all the manpower, people power, and the materials and the equipment from the Queens end, and that they had to traverse the entire tunnel in many cases, right? Mark knows this. So this idea, I'm not sure it would have been possible in that project because we were trying to protect Garodnick's beloved Midtown from from the impact. No, I mean, there was a thought that went into making them bring everything in from Queens because you didn't want to disrupt the Manhattan Central Business District, but it was hugely inefficient and costly. So this idea of actually creating a stairway and an entry point that we build, even if it doesn't exist now, to give contractors access and to minimize those costs and increase productivity is actually an important innovation that could yield benefits. So credit to you guys. Very, very useful presentation. As a reformed C&D hack, I love it. Go ahead.
So as we've just heard, the infrastructure business unit has been stepping up to meet the challenge of getting more done. And we all know that's very important because we must deliver even more. We're all painfully aware of the immense backlog of capital work we need to do, and every day that passes, we increase the cost, the risk, and the inconvenience to the New York region. Subway power is a great example of why we need the next capital plan to keep the system running. Over 1/3 of New York City Transit's 224 power substations have major components that are in poor or marginal condition, and this risk will only grow as the equipment that provides the power to the third rail continues to age. Power incidents are the most disruptive type of incident, delaying an average of 34 trains per incident, and a single incident can often delay hundreds of trains. The 25 to 29 capital plan calls for $3 billion for us to increase the pace of how much power work we do. This is both because we have a substantial backlog, over 1/3 of the system, but also because we know immediately behind this we have this ballooning cohort of substations that will also be beyond their useful life. Our plan calls for us to do work at 67 substations. This is based on detailed analysis we did across the system to identify the most critical locations, such as where we have multiple substations in a row that are in poor and marginal condition, or a yard that has a substation that's in poor or marginal condition. This yard substation is required to give the train the power it needs to get it into service. Another important area that we need to get more done in is resilience. We're all experiencing more frequent and intense weather events. And as we celebrate the completion of the Sandy projects that Peter just showed us, we know from personal experience that there's far more to do to protect our system. A major focus of the 25 to 29 plan, $700 million, is dedicated to expanding our protections against stormwater runoff and flooding from torrential rain. Whenever we are hit with intense rainfall of more than 1 3/4 inches per hour, our infrastructure is at risk of floods that can severely disrupt service and cause widespread delays. We've had at least 10 of these storms of this magnitude over the last several years. Our strategy to protect the subway from stormwater flooding is twofold. First, at the sidewalk level, we need to deter stormwater runoff from entering the underground subway system, advancing mitigations in 32 locations. And the second part of our strategy, we need to improve the infrastructure below the sidewalks that removes water from the subway tunnels. The equipment that does this is located in pump rooms. We have found that incidents and delays due to weather are 2.5 times more likely in locations served by pump rooms that are in poor or marginal condition. And the 25 to 29 plan calls for investment in 14 of the poorest performing and undersized pump rooms. And finally, as this board knows, we need to increase the amount of capital work we get done in our subway shops and yards so that we can provide safe and reliable service by inspecting, repairing, and cleaning the rail cars. Unfortunately, our shops and yards are among the poorest condition assets. The $1.6 billion investment in shops and yards is a need that's been identified for decades. If you look back over our past 20-year needs, we have identified over and over again the need to rebuild our shops. And over again, it's among the first to be cut when there are budget constraints. Many of the shops were originally designed for rail cars from a completely different era. Two of our oldest shops, Livonia and 240th, date back to the early 1900s. They're so out of date that our teams at these shops cannot perform maintenance of any rail cars built after the 1980s. As we replace our oldest rail cars, which we also must do to provide reliable service, we must have the shops that can service them. As many noted in the public comments, we face a choice to fall behind or to invest like the future rides with us, and never could this be more true than for our aging, hidden infrastructure that this business unit rebuilds. That's it.
I mean, there's a lot here, folks. There's a lot here. My head is swimming. But I want to invite the board to questions and comments. Mr. Herbst.
Well, first of all, thank you. And Jamie and crew, you're doing a fabulous job. And this presentation really talks about, and we've heard time and time again about the cost savings, time delivery, and they're always satisfying, wonderful things to hear. And the expression said, the new MTA, it's so true. And one thing that you didn't talk about, or maybe you implied, was one of the greatest savings that we have is conversation. And Mark Roche, the conversations that you have going into projects and delivery and asking the questions that you talked about during your presentation are so important. You have developed, the whole department has developed a dialogue with the construction community, the contractors, to look where the savings can be, because the faster you do it, the more savings there will be, and it's also the productivity on the contractor side as well. They're looking for the next job. They want to get done in and out as quick as possible, and of course they want to make a profit. That's their livelihood. They're in the business to make money, but the more opportunities, the better jobs to do it efficiently. The MTA has become one of the best customers, and that means more people bidding, lower projects. And, I hear nothing but compliments from the contractors that I dealing with the MTA. So kudos to all of you, and thank you for doing such a wonderful service.
Mr. Albert.
Yeah, maybe it's because I came in late from the Transit Committee, but Jamie, I heard you talking about some of the benefits of congestion pricing, and I heard you mention the Fulton Street A and C line and Liberty line, but I did not hear you mention the 6th Avenue BD F&M, which is always talked about in the same breath. Is that not also part of this?
It is. That's next. We're working hard on putting that package together to get it out the door this year.
Okay, great. Thanks.
I mean, Andrew, the Culver line in Brooklyn is pretty much operational for CBDC.
It is.
And so we have the Queens Boulevard line and the Culver line, and we're seeing benefits on the Queens Boulevard line. To really get the full benefit, we want to fix where the choke points are in the center of the system in Manhattan. That's what Jamie and you were talking about. It's important.
I'll just add, we're also, 8th Avenue, the 8th Avenue line in Manhattan is moving towards completion. That became very complicated because of how we sequence with rolling stock arrivals and equipping of those trains, but we now have a plan, a path forward to finish that. That connects us up, and there's also an important set of connections to the Crosstown line. And just to be, we've had a lot of generations now of CBTC. The Crosstown line is the first real design build. It's what we call CBTC centric, which minimizes the amount of equipment that we're installing along the tracks, and it is going well. It's on time, it's on budget, and we expect that is going to produce a lot of innovation that inspires us. It already has inspired us for how we're approaching the Fulton line and 6th Avenue. Since I'm doing it, I also want to. It was mentioned in the public comments. We found a way to jump in and start pulling cable so we can have cellular service on the crosstown line. We're even further ahead of that now. With the Fulton line, we are integrating that into the contract. So we're expecting contractors to come and bid on the work, and their job is going to be to re-signal the Fulton and Liberty lines for us, and at the same time to install cellular service in that public-private partnership at no cost to the MTA.
Anybody else before we go to the IEC? Okay. IEC.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. As part of the IEC's oversight responsibilities, we analyzed a total of 53 infrastructure projects for both cost and schedule performance. These projects were reported in last quarter's traffic light report, presented at the December CPC meeting, and 3 projects triggered variances. The IEC reviewed variance reports from C&D on the 3 infrastructure projects that encountered schedule issues in the third quarter of 2024. The IEC also conducts more detailed project monitoring with our in-depth analysis of the infrastructure projects we are reporting on today, and which begin on page 14 of your committee book. We will begin our report with the Jamaica Bus Depot. Jamaica Bus Depot is 27% complete. The IEC forecasts a 10-month delay due to DEP permit approvals needed. Alternatives to improve the schedule performance are being explored, and given the remaining project duration, the IEC agrees that some schedule recovery is possible, noting that the delay has no impact on the depot's operation and the current budget is forecast to be sufficient for project completion. Project risks, which include timely testing and commissioning activities, coordination of hazardous materials abatement, and third-party procurement of bus charging equipment are closely tracked, and mitigation strategies are being implemented. Lastly, Rockaway Line resiliency and viaduct rehabilitation. The IEC notes the project is on schedule and within budget. The project team successfully prepared for and commenced the long-term general order. The diversion spans approximately 4 months. The IEC notes that the project team has halted track, signal, and communication scope at Beach 105th Street while it undergoes a technical evaluation. The project is progressing well. Materials and potential supply chain issues are being mitigated by utilizing multiple suppliers and prioritizing submittal reviews and approvals. The project management team is supplementing these efforts by performing pre-delivery material inspections, tracking of steel and concrete component fabrication, as well as expedited design, submittal, and approval of long lead items. In the IEC's opinion, the project team continues to progress the project and mitigates risks to ensure timely project completion and remain within budget. This concludes the IEC's comments on C&D's infrastructure business unit.
Schedule issues, is that correct?
That's
I
correct.
think that's a solid track record. You're at 5 or 6%. Okay. And are budget issues looked at similarly in the TLR as well?
Yes.
Okay, and so were there budget issues?
No budget issues.
No budget issues in any of them?
Yeah.
Okay. That's what we like to hear. All right. What else for today? Questions or comments?
And you said,
Please.
I'm sorry, General, the Jamaica bus station is what percentage complete? 27?
27.
27, that's what I thought. Okay, thank you.
I mean, the issue Jamie highlighted is there's a schedule issue that has to do with the demolition of the existing facility, not with the production and completion of the new facility, mostly because of permitting and real estate issues. So we're going to get through it, but it's not affecting the utility that we're all shooting for, and including the having an fully electrically electric bus supportive bus depot. Mr. Albert.
To that end, the new electric bus order that was just completed, they will be delivered, I'm guessing, to the new depot. They must be, because that's where the electric facility is.
Bingo.
Yeah. Will it be timely for the first batch of the buses?
We expect so. We need to manage that delivery as well. There's multiple bus depots that will be initially electrified. I've slightly lost track of the number, but Jamaica Bus Depot is the main first one, and then Gun Hill, and then we're equipping other existing depots, including in Manhattan. So, we expect to be able to absorb those.
Okay. I can't resist. This is what we want to be talking about. Like, how do we get, this is what the next capital program is about. How do we get all the unsexy stuff done so that we don't have more power facilities going into poor marginal? We don't have any room for compromise. The $68 billion program is the minimum program that will allow us to make progress on these not publicly celebrated but important elements of our system: power, structure, shops and yards. We ain't going to let the shops and yards that are impossible to put on service continue to go untouched. We're just not going to do it. So that's why we ended up with the program that we did. And as the legislature takes it up, it's important that all of us reinforce that this is a program that is the minimum necessary to advance now, the good news is that the legislature, when they did their veto, said it's just about how do we fund. They didn't say, we have a problem with the substance. But we all need to be talking to our various stakeholders and relationships about this is the minimum program necessary to make sure that we don't continue to lose ground, which in turn affects our ability to deliver service, period, end. And the fact that there is so much evidence in this meeting, in just this one meeting, of innovation in how we manage projects and success in saving budget and delivering on schedule and ahead of schedule is exactly what we need to be emphasizing to everybody out there. So huge kudos to Jamie and the whole team, Alyssa, Peter, Mark, for delivering a presentation of this kind that speaks directly to what we need to be conveying. Mr. Albert, again.
Not to mention the approximate estimate of how much economic activity that capital plan is going to invest in the state of New York.
Yes, you're referring to Ernst & Young, EY, as it's called now, delivered that report on the economic impact of the capital program last week, and it's also very encouraging and important. Anybody else before we close? All right. With that, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Mr. Herbst. Thank you, Ms. Mahaltzis, for the second. We are in adjournment. Thank you.